No, that's a good one. Right, okay.
Can't be.
Kasad, what is your first take?
Wow. I was wondering where to go first. I think I'm gonna go mildly, and I'm gonna say that currently in this world of Counter-Strike of ours, I don't know if it's correct to say anymore. I don't even know what the fuck is going on with political statements or whatever.
I'm scared already. Right, get the button ready. We can edit this. Go on.
The kill switch instant. No, the thing is like the CIS region. Is that the correct thing to say?
It used to be. Obviously now they claim Ukraine isn't part of it anymore or something like that.
Eastern Europe.
But let's face it, we all used it as a general concept for Russia, Eastern Europe. Yes, Eastern Europe.
Eastern Europe is still Poland and stuff. I'm not really counting Poland.
Sure.
I mean, it depends who you ask, I guess. It's like, the thing is like, CIS, I'm going to stick with that, is destroying the same amount of talent they're producing right now.
Okay. Where are you going with this one?
The thing is like, how in the last few years, like so many CIS, right, players popped out very quickly, starting from Yekindar, Fleet, Fame, Donk, Shiro, Monesi, all these bunch of other kids, right? They just popped up. And let me tell you that right now, these players are just a fragment of how many talented kids are in that region right now. But sadly, they are getting locked into these contracts, into this academy.
I mean, the buyouts are crazy, aren't they?
With the buyouts, even like I'm not going to go too deep into details because I haven't confirmed much of these things, but the things that I know is that they are like locked into those contracts for multiple years with minimum salary and maximum buyouts, like enormous buyouts. So all these kids that are supposed to be the next Donk, the next Shiro, the next this and that, Fame, Philip, James, whatever, right? Are being locked into their teams, and the teams that are there are connected to each other. Like they are like because they have the parent company or the betting company above them, and they're like all connected, and everybody knows that. Like there is proofs of that, like that they are connected to each other, and obviously there are 2-3 different currents in a way, and they don't want to end up selling players to each other because they keep to their own, right? There is like 2-3 teams here, 2-3 teams there, 2-3 teams there on the third side, and everybody has their own kind of sponsor on the big company that's above them, and they're all keeping those players locked. And when you go and ask for the player that you think is talented, and you want to buy them, you get a enormous amount of buyout. Right? They tell you, like, let's say $100,000. So you go back and it's like, what the fuck should I do? Like, is this kid really good? So you go back and say, like, listen, I'll give you the 100,000. And they go, oh, sorry, we re-evaluated and it's 175 now. Basically, they're saying the random numbers, so you cannot pay, you don't want to pay, there is no much sense to pay, so they can keep them. And at the end, they do nothing with them. Their momentum goes by and they just get stuck and just end up being nowhere, right? And I think that even though that region has a lot of talent right now, a lot of talent right now in these academy teams, in these like lower teams like Amkals and Amigas and Spirit Academy and like all these like smaller teams, what you would call right now, they are being locked into these contracts where they cannot get out of because somebody is controlling that and they don't want to see them. So in that way, they are destroying a bunch of these young talents who could be potentially next donks and, all these high-tier players that can reach like, tier 1 level. Now, some of them will get out, some of them won't, because like you cannot have 2 donks in Spirit, right? That would not make any sense. You cannot have 2 Shiros in like one team. It just doesn't make sense. So right now they're doing the same amount of damage as they're like delivering, promising kids and talented kids into these teams. So, and I know a bunch of these things, and like we are trying to like get these things out, and it's very frustrating when you see that you cannot get to a player, not just, let's say, just forget about my team, but like, let's say more serious teams. Like they want to get a talented player, like serious organizations, like, let's say Ants or OG or somebody like that, they are just like impossible to get because they get such a high buyout that it makes no sense. Remember Monesi and his buyout, 600 fucking thousand. How much did NIP paid for Hat-Trick? Remember that?
I think it was like half as much, 3K.
Yes,
maybe.
3, and they send him back to bait. Now they got Wrinkle. They paid God knows much for that. How much Liquid paid for Yekinder? Like all these like transfers are enormously, ridiculously bad. And they're fucking up the market, they're fucking up the young players, and you can't do anything about it because we don't have any regulatory body, we don't have any responsibility, we don't have any salary caps, we don't have any buyout or financial fair play in our esports. So it's just fucking crazy right now. Bottom line is like, but CIS is not the only one. You see what, like, for example, Astralis did to this kid, bro. Like with this, like, getting this post out, and then I love that his agent came out and said it, and said like, listen, he's not sick at all. He's fine. He can play. Like that triggered an avalanche of shit, and now you saw today that the Astralis CEO stepped down, whatever, right? So the thing is like there is a bunch of stuff that kind of is preventing these young players to kind of explode a little bit faster and be more like open and be more like kind of into these tier 1 teams, tier 2 teams, for example, as well. I'm not gonna mention there's a ridiculous price for Heavy God, but when he was supposed to go from OG to Cloud9, and then even before that from Endpoint to OG, it's just ridiculous. So yeah, that's my hot take.
I mean, I feel like the name that I just instantly conjure up when you talk about this is Kyosuke. It's not really like, I don't know if it's more like you're breaking some news here as opposed to like it being a hot take. So I'm not really judging it in that sense. I'm just thinking about the fact that it would be really cool to see a Kyosuke on like an Aurora, and I don't know the behind the scenes as to why that's not happening. I feel like there's obviously, like, we praise these kind of orgs for creating academies, players too, but if they have predatory contracts, then I can't really be on board with it. Like, it's cool, and I would like to give credit to the organization for being probably a bit more profitable and a bit more savvy in the space for picking and finding these guys as soon as they possibly can, but I don't like the aspect of it that they're going to practically shackle these kids to just stay playing for their academy teams, when at this point, having seen Spirit Academy just a little bit, and I mean, just glancing at the numbers for Kyosuke, like the dude, I mean, in terms of mechanics, like this guy's he's so quick, he's so fast. Like I watched him play a Face-It game against Nico and Monacy recently, and he like dumpstered him. He actually was destroying Nico and Monacy in the server. And sure, it's Face-It, but it's like, that's not anybody could load up with a rifle and do that versus two of the best 5 players in the world. So yeah, I'm pretty sold on him. And also watching him play against other tier 2 opposition, it's just like his crosshair correction is incredible. His crosshair placement is fantastic. I don't know if his decision making is always the best every single time. I haven't seen him tested against better opposition as regularly, but for him to not be on a team that's at least in the top 20, I feel like that's in some ways how the scene has regressed a little bit. Yeah, we have all these contract salaries that allow people to keep with the game. They don't fall out too early because they know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and they probably are even getting paid as it is right now. But for them to not reach their full potential, that's one way where it just takes longer now, and that it's the double-edged sword of this whole issue.
Okay.
Yeah, the thing is, like, before Duncan replies, like, there's like this currents of like betting companies that are like, behind several of these teams. You have like 1xBet, and then Party Match, and then whatever GG Bet. I don't even know what's going on with how many of them, but they're like multiple teams everywhere, and they're like kind of pitting against each other, and nobody wants to sell anybody to anyone, especially not to the West European organizations that are kind of offering fair deals. They're not lowballing them. Some of them will lowball you, but at the end of the day, they will offer you a fair deal for the market value of the player. And you can also loan him. There's also options that you can just send the player to explode, and there is like deals to be made very easily, but they're not even exploring that. Like, what is this? You said Kiyosuke, right? I call him like that, I guess. I don't know which pronounces.
I've never heard him pronounce his own name, so I don't know.
It doesn't really matter. The bottom line is, like, what's he going to be in Spirit Academy, and just, like, what's going to happen? Like, next year he's going to be there, and then he's going to replace who? Where's he going to go? Like, he cannot play Dong with Dong because they're playing the same,
I love the people, the fans who are noobs who go, gonna have Kiyosuke and Donk in the same team. No, in the same way as you were never gonna have Monacy and Simple in the same team, you idiot. Of course not.
Yes,
of course not.
Just not gonna work.
No.
Like,
no point.
It's just terrible. And then where is he gonna go? Like send him out to a loan. Like the cities buy like Bayern Munich, Manchester City, like all these like Liverpool, Real Madrid, Barcelona, buying these young kids and send them out for a couple of seasons. Like you make some sort of a deal that will work for everyone. I'm sure like these orgs like OG, Ants, like I mentioned, like this like not tier 1 organizations will accept that because it will elevate their financial status because qualifying for the major with those players, even loadout players, will boost their financial status, even if you have to return the player in the next after 2 years by some fucking deal that you made. Like it's not the biggest deal, and your player will develop under better leadership in that org because he will play the more quality teams and he had a better coach and had a better staff around him and then play more stronger matches. It's better to develop like that than keep him in the academy team forever and then sell him like the one other example was that Magnoyes kid, right? He was all right.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be the next Donk as well, and then they kept him a little bit too long. Now he's in bad boom, and then he's like okay, but he's not fulfilled like his kind of potential. Let's say it like that. Sorry, Duncan, you can go.
It's all good. Here's the thing. I'll run down a list of names because I actually think it's... First of all, I agree with the buyout thing. The buyout thing is wrecking it because, as Maui said, in the old CS scene without huge buyouts, you wouldn't still be on an academy team or on the low team or on the bench. What you would do is you would already go... If you can't get in the main team, you would go to the second, third, fourth... You'd keep going down the ladder until you got to that next team. If it was in the Danish scene, the Russian scene, the Swedish scene, you'd already be playing as the point. The point is you'd already see all these players we're talking about playing against you in the low competitions and then eventually getting up, and there used to be a ladder. You moved up if you were good. Now you move up if like you can make a deal, if someone's willing to pay this crazy buyout, if someone has the vision. By the way, that's the stupidest thing about the buyouts. Most people don't even have the eye test in Counter-Strike to really know if you're actually going to be that good based on limited sample size against low-level competition. They're just gambling off hype or they've been told. Also, I've heard it looks like it if you look at interviews, because I think Navi even once said something weird like that they had great relationships with all these different orgs out there. It even is implied there's almost like some fucking cartel. Like if you're just some outside org, like spoiler, I'll bet when Team Liquid comes in and they go, can I have Patsy? They go, yeah, sure. Add 100k onto that number for them because they're thinking Team Liquid, bloody stupid Americans with all the money. Real them. Whereas if you go, maybe if you already have a connection with them, because remember within their scene, maybe I'm going to one day sell a player to you, so we make a deal, and you can make it reasonable because we know each other and we're friends, all that jazz. It just smells so bad if you're a player, because if you're a player, you have no agency in this regard. Like the worst thing about the big buyout is this. I've made this point about the Brazilian team, so I'll make it about the CIS one. It's not like they do it logically. They don't do it like, right, it's 300k, because if you don't pay 300k, he's going to pay 275. It's usually one buyer. It's like, it's 300k for you, Kassad. And you go, 300k is too much. And they go, lol, I'm just keeping him then. So not only do I not get the 300k, and if I'm a small org, by the way, 300k is everything. I could bankroll the whole fucking team for a year off that. I could get the next really good players and bring them up like you're supposed to. Also, when I don't do that, not only do I get to keep this super talent, but I'm in tier 2 anyway. I'm in tier 3 anyway. I'm never winning I'm not even getting to Cologne with this guy. So the stupid thing is, it doesn't actually help the org that much when you don't sell. You're just being greedy, like Kassad said, and essentially playing like a game of chicken. Like, will you dare to just pay the money for no reason? If you do, he might be good, he might be bad, and I'll get loads of money. It's just too greedy. It's not good business either. It's just not good business for anyone. It's not good for the player. It's not good for the org. It's not good for the org trying to buy him. I'm not saying you have to sell, but I'm saying you have to sell at like a reasonable amount. Like you can put it a little bit above market value, but there's no point saying like 500k or nothing. Like, that's not business, mate. Business doesn't work that way. There's even a saying in business that goes, good business deals require each person to give something up that you both get what you want. That's a great way to think about it.
And I'll give you an example how compare football to this. You don't have to sell him, whoever you are, the Russian, Ukrainian organization, doesn't matter. You don't have to sell the player, send him for a loan for 12 months. Let's say this Kiyosuke Donk thing. Like you don't need the Kiyosuke for Donk for the next year at least.
Also, Kassad, you can always put it in the contract. If he makes the major, then I get this much extra, or it costs more.
Yes,
you can also structure it. I was
going to compare it with football, right? Let's say like 12 years, you send these Kiyosuke kids to whatever, Liquid, doesn't matter, like whoever, right? And say that it can be a little bit smaller organization, right? Somebody towards like, I don't know, Mouse.
I'll give you an example. Supposedly, people say that is what was done with Shu here in Mouse to Gamer Legion. Yes, they had a buyback clause that they can bring him back. Yeah.
It was. And you know what happens? You send that player for 12 months. 12 months. You agree personal terms, whatever, right? And then he gets to a major, they get the sticker money, they get to another major, they get the sticker money, it goes to the organization gets loaded, and now it's time to send him back. Yes, it sucks, but that's the deal you made, and it kind of helped your organization to stay above water, right? So to not sink down and fucking die. Because take an example of Premier League. You have, let's say, Southampton, right? As a football club that just got promoted back into Premier League. Now maybe they don't have the money to buy Premier League level players, right? But they have money to kind of invest in loaning some of the players that maybe City doesn't want that season, that maybe Liverpool, that maybe Newcastle, that somebody doesn't want that season. You get them, you work with them through that season, they secure you so you can stay in the Premier League for the next season, so you get an additional £100 million for up the TV rights from the fucking whatever, like sponsorships and all these things that you get back, and then you send those players back, but you have the money to buy some different players, and in a smaller organization, this is where you get. And on the organization that loaned that player, they get a fully developed player who is already played the Premier League season, who already knows how to play against defenders in the Premier League. If you compare, he knows like in CS, then he will know how to play against G2, how to play fucking big teams, and he's not going to be scared because he already played those big events or big-ish events, and then he's going to go back to your team if you need him. If you don't need him and then Donk becomes a fucking whatever, one of a kind, then you just sell him. And then you get a lot more money as well. It's just the way that business should be done, but they're not doing it right now. I'll give you my example. We sent Nok on loan to Fnatic for 6 months. You know, because he couldn't deliver here. There was like no room for him here. It was like, so I don't get into like specific reasons. But what could I have done? I could have said like, listen, I'm just gonna keep you on the bench. Like maybe I use you, maybe I don't use you. But instead, I could just loan him to Fnatic that he can excel a little bit more than he excelled with us and perform a little bit more. They get to the major, you know, they get the sticker money, they improve their team, they tell us, hey, listen, we want to buy this kid. I say, listen, that's how much money I want him, or I just take him back. And then, you know, everybody's happy. I got him off the books for those 6 months, so I don't have to pay the bench salary or any kind of salary, and everything is happy. Everybody's happy. And he's playing Counter-Strike. He's not sitting on the bench holding his cock, just doing nothing. He's playing Counter-Strike instead of sitting on a bench. And he's going to be playing on a decent level. They have the RMR, they have whatever, right? So the same went for Hampus, or like, I'm trying to set some sort of an example of these transfers and how deals should be made. Sometimes you will have to take a step back and take a little bit of a hit, take a little bit of a risk, but it should be, at the end of the day, it should be the way it's done. Simply, like you said it, that both sides get kind of what they want. The deal is not made unless, you know, both sides are happy. And both sides need to make a compromise. This way, like, it's going to work. The other way is going to be like, yeah, fuck you, I want $3 million for my player. Yeah, if you don't want to pay, fuck you, I'll just keep him on the... Not even thinking about the player at all. Not even thinking about the future of your org. Not even thinking about anything. You just set the fucking price, $300,000, and like, yeah, fuck you. If you don't want to pay, goodbye. And then when you decide to pay, they say, it's not 300 anymore, it's 400. But who does business like that? But
I'll give you my list. The list is a mixture of players because there's two sides to this. The other side, and this is also something that will always happen. I've got a League of Legends example very quickly. Whenever you have a talent-rich scene, which is in League of Legends, what happened was once they made all these European regional leagues below LEC, what happened was they developed all these talents, and so when players would get to the top of those leagues, people would go, and obviously the buyout was way less than buying like a top player in the LEC. So people just got addicted to gambling. It was like a lottery ticket. Let's get this player here, and they would get them, and sometimes they didn't even get a whole year. They'd give them one split and then bench them immediately and go, right, bring back the like good but not top pro that can just be reliable because that didn't work out with that guy. Kick him out. And then what they did is they just kept gambling on this, and that had two effects. One, it means that you get incredibly cynical with the players. You just try a player. If he fails, that's it. You don't get a second chance because why would I try again with you when you failed? I can try with the guy who didn't fail yet. Let me take that guy and see if he can just magically be really good immediately, like a Donk or someone, which very few players are going to make it through that hoop, actually. Some players, we all know this. Some players take a team or two, or they have a failure for the first 6 months. By the way, the obvious example on Na'Vi would be, imagine if they had have cut Imma when we'd all told them to. Look, at the time, we were right to cut him. But I'll tell you what, if we could all go back in time and say we'd go, Hold on that one. Maybe just hold. That's going to work out, actually, believe it or not. Let Blade cook. He's doing what he's doing. It's Blade. And it turns out that was the one time ever. That's why when people go, I knew he'd do that. You don't know Blade. Shut the fuck up, idiot. I've known him since like 2006 or something. Shut your fucking mouth. You're the person who, when he joined Na'Vi, said he's like washed and will never be able to call because he just calls like Flipside. You don't know shit about Blade. Little bro, you don't know him like that, okay? So there you go. Did the fucking Zoomer thing again. Right. I'll run down a list of players. So you get two sets of players. They either are never able to get to the top because they're locked in these contracts, and nobody's going to pay 300, 400k for unknown people unless they're idiots like Nip. And then the other angle is you've got the people where they got their one chance at a big team, and then because they didn't make it, no one gives a fuck anymore. They'll never be allowed to be in the top team. Right, here's a list. How about Shalfie? On Froze, he looked fucking good. Zorti looked pretty good. He's never been able to get to those top teams. He's tried a few times. Exa Power on Fours back in the day used to be the guy they forced the open hand every time. Patsy, where you all laughed when he was on Liquid, right? I still think that player looks like he could be a good player in the right system, in the right team. He's so fucking young. He looked really good on Spirit when he broke out. He was him and Dexter were the two people they found. Then they got wonderful. Like, they've had some legit players. Chiron, right? As far as I can tell, his main failure is he didn't fit instantly into fucking James' system. One, the most idiosyncratic system ever to be used in CS, probably. And two, most people don't fucking fit in that system. In fact, good players don't seem to fit in that system. That system might even be done in CS2. And then the last one is someone from Spirit. It's Art Frost. That guy had real potential when he was on that team. The joke is, I always said, in some ways it would have been fairer to Donk if they hadn't got Shiro. It'd just been Donk, Zontix and Art Frost all came into the scene together as rookies now. No one would expect, they wouldn't win events, so no one put this pressure on them. We'd all just be going, Donk's so fucking sick. Imagine next year when he's on a top team. Or imagine when they get a good... Then it would have made all the narratives so much more appropriate. In some ways, them winning Cologne, Katowice, even though this will sound mad because it's the best moment of their lives, was one of the biggest fucking, like, as we say in English, like albatrosses around your neck you could ever have. Like, that was one of the worst things that could happen to them. Now they're held to that standard as fucking rookies forevermore. They're supposed to just every tournament beat like Vitality's core, FaZe's core, Mouse. These are fucking bonkers teams. What are we talking about? No one expected this from Mouse when they first came along. No one treated anything. We didn't even expect it from fucking Na'Vi. And Na'Vi's players have experience at majors already from CS2 for fuck's sake. So no, I agree with you. I actually think the CIS scene and the Brazilian scene are the two most at the moment like exploitative, abusive scenes where it's just the orgs and it's not even the big ones. What's hilarious is you're used in CS the big org being the dickhead. No, it's the little guy being the dickhead. It's the guy who doesn't have the money. And the problem is, as Kassad's pointing out, it's because they're just greedy for the money. Their whole thing's sort of like, because it's like, you can fuck or walk. If you pay them the money, lol, I have a player that's never even played tier 1. I just got 300k for him. That doesn't even make sense.
You're right. You mentioned Patsy. Patsy is a perfect example. Now people are talking shit, Patsy this, Patsy that. Look at his rating last 3 months, 120. 120 rating in the last 3 months. For Patsy. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's looking through his games. Nobody's looking through his mechanics, his decision making. They're just like, oh yeah, whatever the team party vision, that shit. Like Patsy is a bust. He's washed. He's whatever.
Yes.
Look at his ratings. Take a look at his demos. See if he's good. Artpros is another example. Artpros was solid, like a solid op. Like maybe he doesn't play well in this team. If you want to compare these bigger names or bigger orgs, look at Alexi for fuck's sake. Like from Mans where he performed well, went to OG where he was like bleh. And then he went to G2, that was a disaster, right? And everybody, oh yeah, it's Alexi, he's shit. He is a fraud alert, Alexi is shit. And then he goes to NIP, again, nothing. Alexi is shit. He's had like fucking whatever, this player, that player, he is this, and then he goes to Na'Vi, where he has players that are suiting him and the organization that is probably, solid. Let's say Na'Vi is solid. And look what happened in a space of 1 year. Like, and nobody's saying Alexi shit now. Where did that people went?
Oh, by the way,
all of a
that
sudden,
take,
nobody's talking shit now.
That take,
like that's what
he doesn't have a tier 1 trophy. Tell you what, how's that looking right now, boys? How's that fucking looking?
Yeah.
Right, I'm gonna go.
One trick pony. Yeah, it was Ants. It was this. After Ants, he couldn't do shit. Where are you now? Like, you can maybe hate him. I don't give a fuck. But where are those people now that they're talking shit? Nobody's saying that anymore. Everybody's, oh, Na'Vi is so good now, and JL is this. No, it's fucking Blade, and it's Alexi. Alexi is the IGL. He controls whatever the fuck is going on. And where are you people now to say shit?
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.